The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome one and all to this very special presentation by the Pitzer College Office of Admission entitled Agents of Change, a look at Pitzer's application process. We are very happy to be with you this evening. My name is Owen Wolf. I'm the Associate Director of Admission here at Pitzer, and I'm very happy this evening to be joined by my friend and colleague, the Dean and Vice President of Admission and Financial Aid at Pitzer College, Mr. Angel Perez. Angel, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Owen. It's great to be here.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin in earnest tonight, we want to make sure that we are coming through to you loud and clear. You'll notice that you have a question box on the front of your screen, so if you can hear us right now, if you wouldn't mind typing into that question box the city, state, or country from which you are tuning in from tonight, that will help us to make sure that we are coming through loud and clear to all of you. Incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, this question box will be your best friend throughout tonight's presentation. If at any point you have a question for myself or Angel, please do not shout it into your computer. We will not be able to hear you. However, do feel free to type that question into the question box, and we will do our best to answer as many of them as we can. Well, Angel, I see Carlsbad, California, San Francisco, California, Alpharetta, Georgia, Towson, Maryland, Blairstown, New Jersey, Lebanon, New Jersey, and Baltimore, Maryland. So I think it is safe to say that we are live to the nation.
This is really exciting to see so many people join us today. Thanks for taking the time. I know how busy this time of year can be for high school juniors and seniors. So shall we get started?
Let's rock.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the basics of the admission process, and I want to make this as casual as possible. Sometimes you might hear me reading a little bit from the screen, but I'm going to try not to do that as much and really contextualize for you what the process is all about. I think the first thing that I want you to know about our process, particularly at Pitzer, is that we're a really highly personalized process. As you're going to see in a little bit when I explain what your application goes through once it comes through the door at Pitzer, we really take a lot of time to get to know you throughout the application process. We really are looking for the best fit student on our campus, and so we take a lot of time throughout the application reading season to do that. We're going to be looking for students who demonstrate strong academic ability, maturity, and independence, but really your application should show us ways that you feel you would benefit from Pitzer and how we would benefit from having you on our campus as well. And you'll notice at the bottom of the slide here, it basically gives you the mission of the college, which is Pitzer produces socially responsible citizens of the world through an interdisciplinary curriculum emphasizing social justice, intercultural understanding, and environmental sustainability. And that for us is really important, and we're looking for students for whom that message actually resonates. So let me start with the basics. The Pitzer application, we are part of the Common Application. We're an exclusive user of the Common Application, and what that means is that we do not have our own application at Pitzer. So if you log on to the Common Application website and let Common Application know that you're interested in Pitzer, it will walk you through the process of what it is that we require. Our application fee is $70, but we also accept fee waivers if you are a student who needs one of those. We will require with the application a Pitzer writing supplement, which I will highlight a little bit later, 3 letters of recommendation. One of those is going to come from your high school counselor, and 2 of those should be from 2 of your teachers in either humanities, mathematics, sciences, social sciences, so on and so forth. The secondary school report form is something that we require as well. That's usually filled out by your guidance office, and then obviously an official high school transcript. And Pitzer is a test optional institution. We do not require the SAT or ACT, and I'm going to get a little bit more into the detail of that later. So I know a lot of people wonder what happens when an application comes into an admission office. You know, what is the process that it actually goes through? So I thought I'd share a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes here, because as I mentioned earlier, it's really a personalized process. When you apply to Pitzer, the file actually goes to a first reader. And the first reader is usually the person who either travels to or represents the area where you go to high school. So for example, if you're from the Seattle area, Owen, who's sitting here with me today, he might be reading your file. If you go to school in Bangalore, India, I might be reading your file because that's where I travel to. And you can actually go onto our website and look at the counselor webpage and see which counselor on our staff is responsible for your file. So that first reader takes a look at your file, makes a decision on the file, and then passes it along to a second reader. And then that second reader also reads the file, makes a decision on the file. It could be the same decision. It could be a disagree. If there is a disagree, that file would go to a potential third reader. And then actually at the end of the process, all of us meet together in an admission committee. And so because we're a small college and we are also, our deadlines are all the same and we release all of our decision letters at the same time, we actually get together as an admission committee. I run the admission committee, but the counselors will get together and they will advocate for the students that they want admitted to the college, and then we make the decisions collectively. Just important to highlight that all the decisions are mailed on the same day, regardless of whether you apply early decision or regular decision. So a little bit about what we look for and what are the things that go into the evaluation process. Obviously, first and foremost, we're interested in your academics. We're going to take a look at your high school transcript, and we're going to evaluate that based on the context of where you went to high school and the kinds of resources that are available to you. So we're going to have access to the kind of curriculum that's available at your high school, and we're going to take a look at how you did in that curriculum, but also what was available to you. You're never going to be penalized for a curriculum that was not available to you. But also, we are going to look at you based on what your high school offered. We're not comparing you to a student who went to a high school down the street. We are going to ask for teacher recommendation letters, and those are really important to us because it really helps us to get to know what you are like as a student in the classroom. You know, teachers might be able to tell us a little bit about your intellectual curiosity. They might be able to tell us about how you interact with others, how you work in teams, the kinds of work habits and study habits that you engage in. And so those actually are really, really important to us in the process as well. And then finally, there's going to be testing. And testing is optional at Pitzer, and we are a truly test-optional institution. We actually did a research study about 12 years ago, and what we learned from that research study is that there was no direct correlation between academic success at Pitzer and the SAT or the ACT. And so as a result, we decided to go test-optional, which means that if you'd like to submit the SAT or the ACT scores, we are happy to take a look at those, but if you feel like those do not represent your academic ability, you do not have to submit those. We're also going to take a look at your co-curricular program because for us, obviously, we are trying to create a community and we're interested in students who are going to bring all types of different passions and interests to our campus. So we are going to take a look at the different activities that you're involved in. And I would say that's probably not the time to be shy. Tell us everything that you do. You know, some of you are involved in school activities, others are involved in activities outside of the classroom, others are involved in jobs during the summertime, or maybe you work after school or you babysit several hours a week. You need to let us know that because as a committee, we want to get to know you in your entirety and get to know the kinds of things you're interested in. What we're trying to gauge here is really what your passion and your interests are. What is it that you choose to do with your time outside of the classroom? And one of the things that is going to go into that section of the application is your high school counselor recommendation letter. And that's going to help us to get to know you a little bit outside of the classroom and a little bit about you as a person and not just a student. After that, we're going to be taking a look at the 2 essays that we require. The first is a personal statement, and you're going to have several options on the essay prompt there through the Common Application. And then the second is going to be a Pitzer writing supplement. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but really it's our opportunity to get to figure out why is it that you feel you would be a good fit for Pitzer. Now let me talk a little bit about interviews because this is an option and we try to give you as many options as possible even though interviews are optional, they are not required. You can either come to campus for an in-person interview, and we are open most Mondays through Fridays except for holidays from 8 to 5, and you can go online and you can schedule an interview. But we also know that a lot of you can't make it to campus, and we understand that. And so if you prefer to do a Skype interview with one of us or a phone interview, we're happy to do that as well, and you can go online and schedule one of those. But then we also have an option called Like Live, and this is where you can go online and you can actually submit a video clip of yourself answering a few questions and prompts that we have for you. And actually, I have to say, this is one of my favorite pieces of the application, because when I am sitting in my office or in my living room reading applications, you can actually come to life right in my living room, and I get to meet you over video. So if that sounds like a good option for you, I definitely encourage you to do that. All right, so I have to tell you that this is my least favorite slide because I think it scares a lot of people. But I do know that a lot of people want to know, well, what does the freshman class look like, and what are the statistics looking like? And so this is the profile for the class of 2018. These are the students that just arrived at Pitzer last month. Last year we had 4,324 applications, and we were only able to accept 13% of the students that applied. We're usually looking for a freshman class of between 250 and 260 students, and on opening day we had 254 students. Now let me contextualize a little bit about that admit rate, because I think it scares a lot of people. And hopefully by the time you go through this entire presentation, you will realize that, you know, we really are looking for students who are a great fit for Pitzer College. And oftentimes students will look at that admit rate and say, oh, I don't have that perfect average GPA, or I don't have, you know, the perfect test score, if that's something that you're looking to submit. And they are really afraid by that selectivity number. But I can tell you that given the amount of attention and care that we give to our process, while obviously we do have to turn away many students in our process, we really are looking for students who are the best fit, and we tend to do a great job of finding those students in the pool, and all of those students do not look the same statistically. So while you'll see that under academics it says that our average GPA was 3.86, many of you have taken math. You know that average means we probably took students way below that, and we probably took students way above that. So don't let those numbers intimidate you. 70% of the students who enrolled or were admitted were actually eligible for the test optional policy. And then in terms of diversity, 41% of the incoming class are students of color, and 9% of those students in the incoming class are international. They're coming to us from other countries. 43% of the students were from California and 57% from out of state. And then in terms of gender breakdown, 41% male and 59% female. So I talked a little bit about the common application earlier, mentioned that we're an exclusive user, so you're not going to find a Pitzer application online anywhere. Do know that if your family qualifies for an application fee waiver, you can complete that form on the common application website and submit it directly to us. Extracurricular activities are an important factor in our decision process, and I mentioned that earlier. And we are looking for students who have been involved outside of the classroom and in their community, including anything else that you would like to tell us. I mean, we're really open to hearing whatever story it is you're willing to tell us. So recommendation letters, these are actually really, really helpful. And part of it, once again, is that it helps us to contextualize who you are as a student and who you are as a person. I mentioned that we require 3 of those. One of them has to be from a school official. It usually comes from a guidance counselor or a college counselor, but at some schools it might come from your principal or headmaster or dean of students. And also know that we are going to require 2 teacher recommendation letters, and those have to be in an academic subject. Mathematics, science, social science, humanities, so on and so forth. And please remember to give your teachers plenty of time to write those letters. I actually worked at a high school for several years, and I remember being frustrated when a student would come to me and say, can you write me a recommendation letter? It's due tomorrow. You don't want to be that student. So you heard me talk a little bit about standardized testing, and because we use a holistic approach to education, being test optional is really an extension, I would say, of our core values. And we're completely test optional, which means you don't have to submit anything in lieu of the SAT or the ACT. Now, if you feel, I know many of you have to take the exam because you're applying to colleges that require the exams, and you feel you've done really well and they represent your academic rigor and success, we are happy to take a look at those. But for a lot of you out there, you don't feel like the SAT or ACT is a true representation of the kind of academic work that you can do. So we are happy not to take a look at those. You do not need to submit those to us. Just know that the admissions committee is not going to make any assumptions about why you did or did not submit the test scores. So the Pitzer Writing Supplement is really the opportunity that you're going to have to tell us a little bit about why it is that you feel you are a strong fit with Pitzer College. We are keenly aware that there are 4,000 plus colleges and universities in the United States and many, many fantastic options for students. And so when we are reading an application, this writing supplement is actually a make or break deal for us. It really helps us to understand why a student feels that Pitzer is the best fit for them over many other colleges. And one of the things you probably have heard a lot about if you've been on our mailing list, if you've been on our website, is the core values of the college. And you're going to find that our supplement is really going to ask you to use those core values. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about those at this point. And once again, if you go onto our website, you can learn a lot more about these core values. But I wanted to review these because if you feel like these resonate with you, then it probably means that you're a really good fit for the college. Pitzer was founded under the mission of 5 core values, and the first one is social responsibility. So when you come to Pitzer, one of the first things that our faculty are going to challenge you with is to think about what the ethical implications of knowledge are. So here you are at one of America's best liberal arts colleges. What is your responsibility to do with the information that you learn when you are here? And so the students who come to Pitzer are absolutely passionate about changing the world, and they spend 4 years on our campus learning how to do just that. The second is intercultural understanding, and we want our students to leave here even more culturally and interculturally competent than when they arrive. And so if you're looking for a global education, you want to be in an environment with students from all over the world, but you also want to be educated in a global context, this is a great place for you to go to school. And you'll notice that as you peruse the curriculum on our website, but also when you look at the different centers that we have on our campus, they really are global in nature and really help students to become educated outside of an American context. The third is interdisciplinary learning, and you probably have heard a lot about this. You probably hear this a lot from other colleges. I think it tends to be a bit of a cliche term these days, but the reality is that actually Pitzer was one of the founding members of this concept in the 1960s, and we felt so strongly about interdisciplinary learning that we didn't ever create traditional academic departments. So if you come to campus tomorrow, one of the first things you'll notice is that our faculty are divided into field groups, and field groups are a little different than academic departments. Field groups are academic areas that have commonalities together, and academic areas that we want students to make the connections through. So you might see that a psychologist sits next to an anthropologist who sits next to a Spanish professor. Those 3 people probably have taught a class together at some point. So when you come to us, we're going to help you to deconstruct traditional ways of learning and help you to make the connections between the academic disciplines. The fourth core value is student engagement. And what that basically means is that when you come to Pitzer, we're going to give you an extraordinary amount of flexibility in our curriculum, but also give you an extraordinary amount of responsibility in terms of your involvement with the college. If you flip through our core, through our catalog, you're going to notice that we don't have a traditional core curriculum like other colleges. We have educational objectives that students need to meet, but there's an incredible amount of flexibility in that curriculum. But one of the things that's really unique about Pitzer is that we are one of the only colleges in the United States that actually has students as part of the governance process. And so if you come to Pitzer, at some point you can become a member of the Board of Trustees. You can help us to make faculty hiring decisions. A lot of the beautiful buildings that you see on the website, including the one on this slide, were actually designed between Pitzer students and architects. And so our students are very much engaged in the life of the college, but we also give them a lot of responsibility for planning the future of the institution as well. And then the last core value is environmental sustainability. And Pitzer really has been forward-thinking since our founding about environmental issues. I actually like to say that Pitzer was green before people even knew what that term meant. If you come to our campus tomorrow, you're going to notice that it's decorated mostly in native plants so that we use the least amount of water in maintaining our facilities. You're going to notice that most of the buildings that are built are LEED certified, which is among the highest sustainability ratings in the nation. And if you are interested in issues of the environment, this is a great living and learning laboratory, not only because we live and breathe sustainability issues, but also because through some of our research institutes and curriculum, you'll really be able to engage that particular core value. So of course, because we care about these core values so much and everything that we do at the college is infused in these core values, we're going to ask you to write about them, and this is what the writing supplement is about. So you just heard me talk about those, and so, you know, if one or two of those pop out to you or get you really excited, those are the ones you probably should write about, because we're going to ask you to incorporate one or more of the core values and talk about how you would contribute to solving a local or global issue of importance to you. That's one option. The other option, as you are reading on the slide, reflecting on your involvement throughout high school or within the community, how have you engaged with one or more of Pitzer's core values? And I think the thing to note here is that there is no right or wrong answer. We are not, you know, checking off a box saying, yes, this is how a student uses a core value, or this is how it resonates with a student. This is really your story to tell. But the thing for you to keep in mind is that this is a really important piece of the application for Pitzer, because it helps us to determine whether or not you are a good fit for the college and whether or not you've given some thought to those core values and what they actually mean to you. So you want to make sure that you leave a lot of time for this essay. We pay a lot of attention to this essay. Sometimes in the committee we will pop that essay onto the screen and dissect the essay, and so make sure that you don't leave that until the last minute. Now we're going to require official transcripts from you, so make sure that you approach your high school counseling office with plenty of time to ensure that they can send us an official high school transcript. When you apply, make sure that it goes through at least your junior year, but then after your first semester of your senior year, we will also need those grades to be forwarded to us as well. And also, many of you have taken college courses, community college courses, summer college courses, so on and so forth. We would be happy to take a look at those and consider them in the process as well. So make sure to submit official copies to us as well. Okay, interviews. You heard me talk a little bit about the interviews. They are optional. You will find that if you come to campus to interview, you may be interviewed by either one of our counselors or one of our Pitzer seniors. We have a program called the Admission Fellows, and these are seniors who are chosen from our student body to interview students. And it's a great opportunity for you not only to tell us a little bit about why Pitzer is a good fit for you, but it's a great opportunity for you to get to meet a Pitzer senior and really pick their brain about what the experience is like. So once again, while interviews are encouraged, we give you a lot of different options to do them online, over the web, so on and so forth, but they are not required. Just know that if you are applying early decision, that you should complete those interviews by December 1st for ED1, and if you are applying early decision round 2, you should have those interviews completed by December 15th. And then regular decision candidates must complete their interviews by December 15th. I talked a little bit about Like Live, and if you, after the presentation, if you click onto that link, you'll be able to, you'll be taken directly to that website. Early decision. This is a program that is a binding agreement between Pitzer College and student. If you have decided that, you know, after shopping around, looking at different college campuses, being on all the different websites, you have decided that Pitzer is your #1 choice, then maybe Early Decision is a great choice for you. This is a program for students who have done well in high school and really want to show the committee that if they are admitted, they would be willing to commit to the institution. But I'm always adamant about the fact that Early Decision should be used for the right reason. A lot of students, they try to use it as a strategy, but the reality is you're committing to an institution. So make sure that whatever institution you choose to apply Early Decision, that you know that it's the absolute #1 and right fit for you. I won't go over the deadlines, but you'll see them right there on the slide, and they're also on our website. Okay, just a little shout out to our international students, because we know we have some of you out there, but also many international students apply to come to Pitzer. We are absolutely passionate about having international students on our campus. You will see that our students are coming to us from all over the world. Right there on the slide, you will see the different countries that our students are coming to us, but this just represents the class of 2018. We have a wide variety of global representation throughout the 4 different classes at Pitzer. If you're an international student, just know that we do require the TOEFL or the IELTS exam from students whose native language is not English, or if you haven't studied at least for 2 years at an English-speaking institution. So some of you are international students, for example, at an English-speaking high school abroad, then this would not be required of you. Our IELTS minimum score to be considered for admission is a 7, and then the TOEFL minimum score is a 95. Also know that we have a special program called the International Scholars Program for students who might need a little bit of help with English language transition. The minimum TOEFL there is a 70 or at least a 6 on the IELTS, and if you click onto that link, it'll tell you a little bit more about the program. Okay, well, I don't think we have too many students who are interested in applying for transfer today. Just do know that we accept transfer applications every single semester, and we do require most of the similar things that we will require for students who are coming in through the freshman program. But understand that we will also be looking at official college transcripts. We will also be doing a transcript evaluation for you, and know that you can transfer up to 64 semester units or 96 quarter units from a community college. And then we also have a new resources program, and this is a program for adults who have come to discover the liberal arts tradition a little bit later in life. And so if you are one of those students who is a non-traditional student, older than 23 years old, and is interested in applying to Pitzer, this would be a great program to consider, and please follow that link. Okay, a little bit about financial aid, and I'm not going to read all of these numbers to you. You see them on the screen, but the most important thing for you to know, for those of you that are applying for financial aid, is to know that we require 2 forms. One is the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, and the second is the CSS profile. And if you go onto the College Board's website, you can find that profile. The most important thing is that not only you have your parents fill out those forms, but that those forms come to us on time. It is really important that you follow the deadlines that you see on the screen. Those deadlines are a little different than the actual common application deadline. So make sure that you put that on your calendar. Nudge your parents a little bit about this, because it's really important that they get it to us. If you're interested, for example, and I know sometimes this is very helpful to parents, to figuring out what your expected family contribution might be, you might click onto the net price calculator here or on our website and have your parents fill out all of the financial information required, and that will give you a predictive sense of the financial aid package. Now, that's not going to be an exact financial aid package, but oftentimes it helps families get a sense of what the expectation might be. Okay, so this has been a lot of fun, but really what I am interested in is knowing what kinds of questions you might have, and I'm open to questions about admission, financial aid, what life is like at Pitzer, the curriculum. Go at it.
Well, Angel, the questions have been coming in fast and furious, and incidentally, if you do have a question for Angel, you are welcome to type it into the question box at this time. If for whatever reason we are unable to answer your question tonight, we do ask that you email it to us at admission@pitzer.edu or visit the website pitzer.edu/admission for information about upcoming events and, of course, more information about the application process as a whole. So, Angel, our first question tonight comes into us from Samudra. Samudra wants to know, can you submit more than 3 letters of recommendation?
Samudra, that's a great question. Yes, you can submit more than 3 letters of recommendation, even though, I would say that on average a student might submit 1 extra letter of recommendation. I wouldn't submit 10 of them. But I would say that you want to be thoughtful about why you are submitting an extra letter of recommendation. In other words, what is the value added? If you, for example, have an after-school job and it's a meaningful part of your life, well, maybe you want your supervisor to tell that story. Or maybe you've been involved in your church or a local community and you want the person that supervises you there to tell that part of your story. We are more than happy to take a look at those.
And our next question comes to us from Paula, who wants to know, does testing optional apply to international applicants as well?
Hi, Paula. Testing optional does apply to international students, and so whether you're a domestic student or an international student, you do not have to submit the SAT or ACT. However, if you are an international student that did not go to high school in an English curriculum, then you would have to submit to us the TOEFL or the IELTS, and that's for us to gauge English language proficiency. But you don't have to submit an SAT or an ACT.
Angel, a question from Holly. Can students submit both a Skype and a live interview?
Holly, you are quite eager. No, it's either one or the other. So if you Skype with one of our staff members or a senior at Pitzer, then you have completed your interview, and we would not expect that you would be submitting a live interview. So it's one or the other. You can choose one.
And a question from Serena. Does Pitzer look at the weighted or unweighted GPA?
Actually, Pitzer, am I on? Actually, Pitzer will take a look at your high school transcript once again in the context that it was sent to us. And so when you send us your high school transcript, an admission officer is not going to recalculate your GPA. And so obviously we will see both of those if your high school calculates that, but we will take the GPA that your high school sends to us, whether it's weighted or unweighted.
And a question from Ying. Can students submit letters of recommendation from drama or theater instructors?
So the answer to that is yes, students can submit from a drama or theater instructor, but I would make that your supplemental recommendation. I would make that your 3rd recommendation letter, not one of the 2 from the core academic subjects.
And following up on that question, a question from Rebecca. What about letters from foreign language instructors?
Yes, we are happy to take a look at letters from foreign language instructors.
And a great question coming to us from Zoe. What types of sports programs are available at Pitzer?
Oh goodness, Zoe, we have a lot of different sports programs, so it really depends on what it is that you're interested in playing. I didn't talk about sports a lot during the presentation, but Pitzer and the Claremont colleges is a really unique place to play sports because we have 2 teams. Claremont McKenna, Harvey Mudd, and Scripps make up one team, and Pomona and Pitzer make up another team. And we are rivals, and we do play each other. So it's actually one of the few places in the United States where you can get dressed in your own locker room and jog across the street to an away game. And so there's really a lot of passion for sports on our campus. And a good number of our incoming students every year are scholar athletes. And so whether you're interested in basketball or volleyball or tennis or swimming or even intramural water polo, because we also have intramural sports as well. There's a wide variety of them. I really encourage you to go onto our website and check out the athletics webpage and look for Pomona Pitzer Athletics, and that'll give you a comprehensive list of all the sports.
And Angel, a financial aid question from Sarah. What is the average debt incurred by a Pitzer student after 4 years?
So the average debt for this year's graduating class was $18,000. And if you compare that to the national average of about $27,000, $28,000, Pitzer's doing pretty well. We are really conscious of this issue, and as you can imagine, and I'm sure that you're all following the stories in the media about this, this is an issue that the federal government is paying a lot of attention to. And so we are doing everything that we can on our end to make sure not only that we try to be as strong as possible in our financial aid awarding, but that we also give as much counseling as we can to students and family about socially responsible lending.
And a question from Cindy. With regard to the Pitzer Writing Supplement, how rigorous are we with the 650-word limit?
Well, that's a tough one because this is actually a common application policy, not a Pitzer College policy. And so you are going to see that with the common application, with all of your essays, there is going to be a cutoff point. I actually think it's a really good exercise to try to be concise, convey your message, but do so within the context of that 650-word limit. But it is pretty strict. It's going to cut you off at that point.
Angel, Robert wants to know, are there differences between the admit rate for early decision and regular decision?
Hi, Robert. Yes, there are differences between the admit rate. Our admit rate for early decision is obviously a little bit higher, and part of that has to do with the fact that we have less students applying in that process. And so if you look at that, if you look at the numbers statistically, and I'm actually not going to remember what the ED admit rate is, but I can easily email that to you if you want to send me an email. But it is going to be a little bit higher. But what I will say is that, and I say this in all honest truth, we are not looking for anything different in early decision than we are in regular decision. And so we are still looking for those students who are a great Pitzer fit, who are absolutely passionate about our core values. But you know, we want to make sure that the students who are applying early decision are not doing so because they're using it as a strategic move to get into the college. We want to make sure that they're doing it because this is their number one choice. This is exactly where they want to go to college, and if admitted, they're willing to commit.
And Angel, we've had several students ask about the difference between early decision 1 and early decision 2.
That's a great question, actually. So there actually isn't a very big difference between early decision 1 and early decision 2. We actually are pretty new to having an early decision round 2 program. And actually this was a result of many high school counselors, students, and parents around the country saying to me that there are students for whom Pitzer comes into their radar a little bit too late in the process for them to apply ED1. And if they had known about Pitzer, they would have applied early decision 1 because it was the perfect fit for them. So we decided to create a round 2 to give those students an opportunity to tell us that they are interested in Pitzer, it's their number one choice, but maybe they learned about it a little bit later. But there is no actual, other than that, there is no difference between the programs.
And the other popular question of the evening, what are Pitzer's study abroad programs like?
Oh, goodness. How much time do you have? I could really go on and on about that. Well, Pitzer has abroad programs. There are different kinds of programs. We have programs that we own, which basically means that Pitzer has an actual center or site in the particular country. And then there are also programs that we affiliate with, and those are programs that have been evaluated by our study abroad office and give students many more options. I would say collectively it's about 100 different options that they're going to have in terms of where they can go. But the one thing that I would say brings all of our programs into commonality is that they're all cultural immersion programs. So whether you are in Nepal or in Ecuador or Parma, Italy, you are going to be living with a family in a local area, really getting to know the culture. And so the basis for all of our programs is cultural immersion. At several of the programs, you're going to be attending local institutions, local colleges and universities, so you're really going to get to know students. The other thing that's interesting about Pitzer's programs is that none of them have mandatory language requirements. So a student, for example, could fall in love with the concept of going to Nepal in their junior year, learn about it in their sophomore year, but they will basically, it's cultural and language immersion, so when they get to Nepal is when they will be learning the language. So that's another benefit, that students have a little bit of choice in terms of where they can go, because they have the option of learning the language when they get there.
Angel, our next question comes to us from Jolie. How should students go about submitting an art portfolio? And a similar question from Molly, should students submit a resume as well?
Great. Well, we actually understand that students have extra materials that they may want to submit, because once again, what we're trying to do in the admission process is to get a clear understanding of what your story is, and you are the only person who knows how to tell that the best. And so we actually have partnered with an organization called Slide Room, and you could read a little bit more about this on our website. Just go on to the application page. And I can't remember if it's also on the Common Application website. Yes, it's also on the Common Application website, so you will see that there. But if you go to Slide Room and you basically register, create an account, and let Slide Room know that you are applying to Pitzer, you will actually be able to upload any materials that you would like there. So if you wanted to submit a portfolio, if you wanted to submit a link to a video, or things like that, anything artistic or anything extra you could send there, but you would be able to upload any materials, then you can upload a resume as well. Resumes are not required, but we do see that a good number of students do submit them.
Angel, we have a great question coming into us from Hunter. What knowledge do you feel that Pitzer students graduate with that no other college can offer?
Wow, Hunter, that's one of the best questions I've heard in a long time. Well, you know, I think, first of all, everyone's leaving Pitzer with a lot of different kinds of knowledge, obviously, given whatever it is that they majored in and the kinds of courses that they took. But I have to say that the tie that binds Pitzer students together is really the commitment that they make at Pitzer to use their education to make a difference in the world. So whether a student is majoring in economics or dance or environmental analysis or music, they are really going through a 4-year intense education in a liberal arts context. But really, this is one of the few places in the United States that I have seen where students basically are spending 4 years on a campus, creating a plan and trying to figure out how it is that they are going to use their education to shape their local, national, and global societies. And so I find it really inspiring to be on a campus where you have 1,000 students with this mindset and trying to figure out how to use the curriculum to do just that. So while I think the knowledge that students leave with from Pitzer is extraordinarily different for every single individual, because everybody here creates their own path, there isn't one particular road, I have to say that that's the one commonality that I've seen. And I've also seen it from a lot of alums. I travel a lot for Pitzer throughout the United States, but also throughout the world, and I have met alumni who graduated 30, 40 years ago, and I am amazed at how much they still very much have made a commitment to the values of the college.
Unfortunately, everybody, we are approaching the end of our time this evening, but we do have time for one final question. Again, if we were unable to answer your question this evening, please do email it to us at admission@pitzer.edu. Angel, our final question tonight comes to us from Mason. What has been your favorite part about being a part of the Pitzer community?
Wow, all these great questions. Mason, goodness, there's too many of them to actually choose one or two, but I guess I'll have to at this point. One of them I just mentioned, and that is really serving a community of change agents, students who have basically said, you know what, I want to go to college, but I don't want this to just be an experience where I am gaining knowledge and not figuring out how to pay that forward and how to use it in a socially responsible, productive, and a globally impactful way. So I find that really inspiring, and I walk out of my office every day, and whether I'm walking to the dining hall or walking over to speak in a class or go to a meeting, I actually feel that energy every single day just by the students looking at their art projects, looking at the art on the walls, looking at the kinds of things that they are engaging in. So for me, that's actually been one of the things that's been most inspiring about being part of the Pitzer community.
Angel, thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights, for answering some great questions, and for giving us all a great in-depth look at the application process and how we create agents of change.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, Owen. And for all of you out there, I am really looking forward to reviewing those applications. So good luck to you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Visit us online at pitzer.edu/admission. Send us your emails to admission@pitzer.edu. Thank you once again for making us a part of your evening, and good luck to all of you as you continue the college application process.